It was just
I think there's...
perfect score one. Let me give another analogy. Just kidding. I just hate it.
You're so woke. It's unbelievable.
Oh, you're a spy. You are listening and...
My whole world is upside down. What are you talking about?
Nothing. Oh, I don't know what you want me to do.
That's probably the most annoying thing about kids.
What?
I'm 5.5. Nobody cares about your
I know.
half. That's the other thing. It's like if you're like
Every part
if
counts
you're like
with them.
30 saying I'm 31.5, grow up. You gotta grow up.
I think it's just like you want to be older all the time, so it's like you're just trying to get any little bit.
Yeah. I'm 3 3/4.
Yeah.
5.5.
We were teaching the other day, and one of the things that you asked them when you were doing like the pausing, throwing the ball to them or whatever, and you asked them when their birthday was, and one of the girls just immediately goes, "I don't know that information."
Oh, really?
she eventually like figured it out because I think her friend told her like, "Remember you just had your birthday party?"
Oh.
Or whatever. But yeah, her to be able to say like, "I don't know that information," not just like, "I don't know that." Her to be able to say that sentence of, "I don't know that information," but to not know her birthday.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's like so much more sophisticated,
Yeah.
but yeah, that is funny.
Or when kids tell you how old they are, but on their hands, but then they still can't figure out how to do it on their hands.
What do you mean?
Like when they're like, "I'm this many," but it takes them like 3 minutes just to like
Oh,
do that.
that's what they should do. I'm 3.5.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. That was so random. I don't know where that came from. So how are you liking your new glasses?
They're good. New glasses are always weird to get used to because like the ground seems so much closer.
What?
Every new pair of glasses I've ever had, I put them on. The ground seems closer than it did before.
But why is that if it's the same prescription?
I don't know if it's just the lens is like curved differently, kind of in each frame.
Okay.
Because of the way the frame holds it or something, the lens is curved differently. That just gives a weird distortion or a
Interesting.
little bit different of one. But it's like, yeah, the ground seems so much closer, and I don't know, it's weird.
That's oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like as soon as you put them, that's why it's like it's the same prescription, but as soon as I put them on, I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like, it feels like you're looking through like, it's like I can see better, but it's like you're looking through like a glass bottle almost, where it's like you can see the curvature of stuff more, but then your eyes end up adjusting, and then it just becomes normal.
Toward then, if you went back to your old glasses, it would be kind of the same thing.
It'd probably look weird again. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, like the frames, like that it would kind of.
But it is. It always, the ground always seems so much closer to you. It's like I just lost like 5 inches because I got new glasses.
That's interesting.
But I like them. They're good.
I noticed the last podcast I was editing, I actually need to be closer to the mic.
Oh, really?
Which that I feel like is never the case for me,
switched.
but yeah.
I got louder. You got quieter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Let's wrap it up. Oh, there should be put like a 5-minute one out.
It was just the intro.
We don't have it today.
Or like if people do like sneak peeks, but like never ever like do the full episode.
Yeah.
Just like do like little clips.
This is actually all we recorded. How have you been liking this?
Doing the podcast?
Yeah.
I think because we're out of season of the travel job, that I'm used to being like the person. I don't know, like it sounds so silly, but like talking on a mic, like I'm used to being that person of someone that has to be really specific in what they're talking about and like that razzle dazzle kind of thing, that I don't have that thing right now, that I think this is good for keeping me kind of
in the mode.
Yeah, ready for that. But I've been liking editing them more than I thought I would, just because I'm recognizing like, okay, these are basically conversations that we are having, whether it's, you know, during that time or like literally that week, and then we talk about it on here, that then being able to go back and listen to it and be like, okay, well, we talked about it on the podcast, but are you implementing these things? Like,
Yeah.
are you actually doing them, or, you know, are you just kind of talking about them?
Yeah.
That they're good reminders, I think, to bring up new topics and force us to talk about, you know, deeper into things that we have been discussing, but then being able to edit them and then go like what we talked about in the last episode of, you know, what kind of competitor are you? I'm going like, oh, well, I could still do that. Like, I could still break down my life a little bit more into what element I could fit things in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like a double checking on my life.
That is interesting of like, we talk about it and then you get kind of a re-up of it a week later because you edit it, you know, whether it's 5 days or a week later, but yeah, you get to look it over again and see, which is like, that's kind of, I mean, it's forced upon you because you're editing it, but like, that's not bad advice or something to think about or do in general. Is like, kind of like give yourself a weekly checkup. So it's like, okay, I'm thinking this way about things, and maybe even just like, I'm motivated right now and I'm thinking of this in this way. Then a week later, it's like checking back. Okay, are you still thinking like that? Are you still kind of in that mode? And seeing like, oh wow, we were just talking about commander, competitor, all that kind of stuff, and like, oh, I'm going through the motions on these couple things. Like, even just a week later, it's like it's already kind of died out that, oh, okay, need to get things back into gear, and you're just forced to get that reminder.
Yeah. And I think another, like, why I've liked doing this from the beginning when we first started in Texas was, like, I like that these are like little time capsules of kind of, because it's so just like a deep dive into who we are at this time and what we're talking about together, that to see the difference of what our conversations are sounding like and what topics are getting brought up versus a year ago, what were we like really invested in and talking about. That it's cool to kind of like even just go back and look at some of the titles of the before ones and just like, oh yeah, that was such a like a high interest for both of us. And to see kind of how it's adjusted and kind of flowed into something else, and it's not forced because we're just trying to do it for the podcast. Like, that is actually what most of our conversations are about. So it'll be cool to see how that kind of transitions. Like what that turns into.
The ebbs and flows of it.
Are you liking it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good. That's
cool. Cool. But what we were talking about on the beach today, of how I've been thinking just a lot about like this time of year is always kind of the same because of like the jobs that I've had, like just being around kids and being around parents during this time of everybody starting school again and everybody starting like all of their different activities. And especially when you are able to talk to these parents, it's like, it's kind of a similar theme regardless of where we have lived. It's like parents from all over are experiencing the same thing right now of just like trying to get their bearings during this time of year of figuring out what the new schedule is going to be. And they're in different grades, so that might have like different requirements or different schools even, or, you know, pick up drop off is different and different activities. Like, I've dealt with a lot of kids that like they are in like 5 things right off the bat in the beginning of the year. And managing a studio, like getting to see kind of the feedback from parents of what they're feeling right now. And just kind of talking about like, how would we kind of manage that with kids, or like, oh, I wish we could like support parents a little bit more during that time, because it seems like every year it's the same exact like stress for parents.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, I don't know. I see it as like the fitness stuff too, where we tend to overestimate what we can do. We don't think of like the long term, am I going to be able to keep this going for a year type of thing. It's like, let me just overload everything right now and then see if I can, sink or swim kind of idea. And then things start to fall off and start to, I don't know, take shortcuts and all that kind of stuff that I think of it in the way of like, it's always easier to add things on because it's like motivationally you can do it. And like, I don't know, it's like a little bit better for your ego and it's like you're succeeding. So now you can add a little bit more. But when you do too much too quick and then you start taking things away, you start to feel like a failure and things start to annoy you because it's so overwhelming and all that kind of stuff that like, I don't know, just like always, it's like starting off slow and then making sure you have the consistency, can do it for, multiple weeks or months. And then it's like, okay, we did really good with that. Now let's add another little thing and add another little thing. But we have such short-term focus. We don't ever have long-term focus of like, how can we maintain this for the year or even multiple years? It's like you're getting your kids into sports or extra curricular activities and stuff. And you're like, well, let's do all 4 of these different things. And it's like, they've never done one. It's like, why don't you just start with one and see how that goes rather than throwing them into 15 of them right away? It's like, they've got plenty of time to add stuff on.
Sure.
And we all have time to add stuff on that, I don't know, just not going too much too fast.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that we talked about is like, trying to figure out when it's time to prioritize what. Like, I think parents maybe get stressed out during this time because like they're trying to do all, like you said, like you're trying to do all of the things at once. And unfortunately, like for the kids, it is all happening at once. Like all the activities start when school starts. So then you're having, all your extracurriculars and school starting all at one time. And then if you have multiple kids, like they're all doing separate things. That's crazy enough. And you just came off of a summer of maybe a little bit less of a structure, or like it's not like every day is planned out for you, that then like the parents are trying to maybe do things for themselves on top of that. And it's just like, you can't manage all of it, but unfortunately like the kid stuff has to happen.
Yeah.
So, maybe just like allowing yourself to like how I said, like I would allow myself to like settle into whatever the kids are needing first. And like, I'm not going to focus on trying to, get all of my new tasks or new things that I want to start this year until like a few months maybe have happened with school and figuring out like what kids need to go where and when, and how does that driving situation look, and how does their energy levels, end up being, to learn where I can be, like you said, like the consistency, where can I be efficient and effective with our new school and activities schedule this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be new for the parents too. That it's like you might as well just see how things are going, and your kids are going to be going through emotional turmoil kind of things with going back to school or starting it for the first time and starting new activities and new teachers, new classroom, new requirements of school. It's like, why not just give yourself, 2 months or something of like, I'm going to put all the focus and attention to the kids because they're going to need it the most. And then after 2 months, when things have kind of gotten into a routine and normal and it's not crazy anymore, like I can start planning, maybe my next workout program or adjusting my diet to something that's a little bit more specific to me and your own extracurricular activities or whatever. Just like now you can start doing that because everything's settled down to where I think it's like that, again, like we were talking about on the beach, like this time, the start of the school year is like the same as the New Year's January 1st thing, where everything is new and different and kids are going to school and whatever. And then all of a sudden the parents are starting to go get personal training again and starting to show up again. And it's like, well, the kids are going to school and I figure I need to start doing this, whatever. It's like, oh, it's kind of interesting how you make the connection of like, they're doing something new, so now I have to do something new. But then they end up being super inconsistent because it's always like something happened at school or something's come up or,
right.
I gotta I got to start taking them to practice on these days, or start picking them up at this time because they're doing, chess club or whatever. And it's like now the parents' schedule of training and workouts it's getting so inconsistent and all over the place, to where it's like, if you would have just waited like 2 months when you knew what all the schedule was going to be, and you've been doing it for a little while, you can figure out what time does work best for you to do all of your things. Then you can kind of slide in there and start doing those things. But it's just like, it's the new, like, you're doing something new, my kids are doing something new, so now I need to do something new and get involved.
We're all getting back in the groove of things.
Yeah, to where it's like I get the motivation and the kind of eagerness, or thinking that you need to switch it up or start doing something, but it's almost like the worst timing, because everything's up in the air. You don't know what time or what anything's going to be. So that's what I mean, like, if or when we have kids, it's like, just wait a little bit, be the tortoise. It's like slow and steady, make small changes. When their schedule's getting crazy and hectic, it makes no sense to make yours that too. It's like almost like start to dial your stuff back and your priorities back, because they're going to need more of your support. And it's like, if you can't give any of it because you're so focused on yourself, it's like, well, this is just not going to work well.
Right. And I think that's where it just adds more of the stress. I think that's why we even had this, conversation come up, or topic comes up, because it's like every year I experience the same thing with parents. And it's just like, I just wish this wouldn't be hard for you guys. Cause like, so then just every year that your kid goes back to school, it's like doom and gloom during these months, because it's like, it's a failure every time, because I think it is like, they're trying to do too many things that, I would like relinquish that pressure a little bit of like this next month at least is going to be all about the kids. Like, I'm not even going to try to get in my workouts. I'm not going to try to focus on what I'm eating. I think as much as it seems backwards of like, you want to do things for you so that you can be a better parent, I think during that time, just putting so much effort on what the kids need to have, that then takes the pressure off of you of like needing to be this super parent of being on your shit and being on your kids' new shit, and like trying to manage it all and trying to figure out what's the best, approach to everything. It's like, put yourself to the side and go like, I'll get back to you.
Well, that's that weird, like, I don't know, movement of like the parent needing to be like, you need your own time and you need to do what's best for you to be the best parent and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you need to be a good parent to be a good parent. Yeah. There's too many people that's like, you're already selfish. You don't need to be more selfish to be a better parent.
Sure.
It's like, what's going to be better or work more for you is to sacrifice a little bit more and give more to your kids. It's like you're so focused on you and trying to, whatever it is that you're trying to do, that your kids aren't eating well and they're not sleeping well, and then they're going to school and it's rough at school because of those things, and they're sitting down all day at school, and now they get home and they're rowdy and all riled up, but you just want them to sit there and eat dinner and not have any activity or whatever, and now you're stressed out because they're annoying and blah blah blah. And it's like, but you still need to make sure you get your workout in and you eat what you need to, and you do those things for you, to where if you would just sacrifice a little bit more, put more time to your kids, more time to parenting, like, let me make sure you get good meals. We're not doing school lunch. I'm going to make you a lunch. I'm going to make you breakfast and send you off on a good note. And then when you get home, like, let's do some sort of activity together, or something outside or something, just like burn off some energy and whatever. I think things will be better that way, to where I get that that's a lot to ask. But again, that's why you do small steps. It's like, maybe just start with, okay, I'm just going to try to make them breakfast every day. It's like, we'll do school lunches for the first month, but I'm going to make them breakfast every day and make sure they get off on the right foot that way. And then when you feel like you can add more, you can add, maybe I'm going to start making them lunch and packing them lunches or whatever it is. But I don't know. I think there's just this interesting movement of like, you need to be doing stuff for you to be a better parent. And I don't know. It just always didn't. It's not really made sense to me because it's like that's just appealing to the people that are already selfish and already think that they need more time for themselves. It's like you need to sacrifice more. It's like that's the problem. That's why the kids aren't becoming who you want them to become, is because you're not sacrificing enough. You're just being more selfish. And then because you're listening to people that are telling you that. Whatever.
Hot take. Spicy take.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, I think that is another message in society that is getting twisted into the wrong message. Like I think the overall approach should be, and again, like what we're talking about, of prioritizing your efficiency and not just thinking you can do it all, so then you end up doing nothing. That I think the positive message with, being a better you so that you can be a better parent is also comes with the sacrifice of like, how can you be the best human that you can be? It's not how much relaxation time can I get so that I can handle my kids, or,
Right.
I need to have a glass of wine at the end of the night so that I can handle my kids. That is, I think, the wrong approach to the message. The message is be as fit as you can, get your workouts in, be healthy so that you're able to be like you're a machine. So what can you do to make the machine as well oiled and properly working 99% of the time, because you're a parent 100% of the time. So you want to be the best version of that as much as you can.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to get the sleep when you can. I know that can be tricky as a parent, but like you're trying to, when you are getting sleep, you're getting the most quality sleep that you can. When you're eating and you're planning your own meals that you're probably cooking for yourself and you're in charge of all the meals, like you're choosing the healthier options. You're choosing the things that you're going to keep, your machines, you and your kids running well. You're going to choose the activities that are bettering you and bettering your brains, and, focusing on you as a whole person, and then focusing on your child as a whole person, mental, physically, and emotionally, so they are able to show up for them in the best way, and that they're able to, grow up in the best way. That takes a lot, and that takes a lot of effort. But if you can focus on those things for yourself, I think I would like to hope that I would be a better parent then in that way, because I'm just going to be all around a healthier, full-on person.
Well, I think it's interesting, like you said, that there's so much more focus put on, oh, I need to make sure I have my glass of wine or my coffee in the morning or whatever so that I can handle my kids. But there's no focus on like, why don't I just try to be a better parent and find ways to be a better parent? It's like, it's almost like I'm reacting to what's happening rather than being proactive so that stuff doesn't happen. It's like,
sure,
my kids come home from school and they're just crazy. It's like, okay, well, how do you make it so they're not crazy? It's like, do they need to like, have something to do right away where it's like, let's go be active and go, run around, work out, shoot Nerf guns or whatever it is, to where it's like, I don't know. There's such a, which I think a lot people do this with a lot of life, is just like reacting to everything rather than being proactive. There's no preparation. There's no like, let's try to beat it to the punch. It's all like, these things are happening to me and I need to find a way to like cope with it. It's like, no, be on the offensive with it. Don't be so, everything's happening to me. It's like, no, I'm making stuff happen. It's like, if my kids are crazy and wild when they get home from school, like, let's do something. Let's go outside and it could be like 10, 15 minutes of like, let's just go hit a ball or throw a ball or go run around and go do something. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go make dinner or whatever. You guys can keep playing. And it's just like these things to be on top of it rather than, the kids are finally in bed and I can have a glass of wine. It's like, I get kids are kids, they're going to be, they're going to wear you out
them
regardless.
At their best version is sometimes exhausting.
They're going to wear you out regardless, but at least you can be done with the day and like, they weren't on your nerves, or it's like, oh, I need the glass of wine because they are just they were just so terrible or they were crazy and taking it all out of me. It's like, no, it was a good day. Like everybody was cool and nice, and we got some activity and we ate well, and everybody was in a good mood and whatever. I just think it needs to be more proactive rather than we're responding to everything. And then it's like, I need to cope with it. Give me a glass of wine. It's like,
Sure.
you know, you could change those things. But I think people just view it as like, oh, I can't fix any of that. I can't change it. They are who they are, or this situation is just what it is. There's
Sure.
nothing I can do.
And I think that's where like these conversations happen around this time of year again. Like we go back to that because all of it is hitting ahead after like a summer of loosey goose and not really having a schedule maybe, or like kids maybe aren't in their activities or sports, and now it's all crashing at a head. That is a lot to deal with, a lot to manage, especially if you have, you know, multiple kids doing all of the things. Like just that schedule alone can be a lot. That I think your approach to being more proactive versus reactive of what's happening, it's like like we said, like take it slow. Take it slow and find ways that are going to support you and set you up so that it's a little bit better. Like a great example, I think, for when I noticed this happening, when I saw like a shift in how I handled it. I had a 3-year-old class. They were started with me when they were 2, and every time that I was like getting there right on time, like I was getting there with the kids and kind of setting up the room when they were coming in. I was never late, but I was just, you know, getting there with them. That was always when we would have more of the tears and we'd have the kids running around, and just like the attitudes were a little bit more frantic. And I was like, I wonder if it's because I'm frazzled that they are getting frazzled, because I'm like trying to set up the music and try to get all of the stuff ready, that they're just like feeding off of that. Like, okay, we're going to be crazy. Like we're going to be kind of frazzled. And then I started coming in earlier. I had all my music set up. I put on like meditation spa music so that they came into a relaxing space, and it was like immediately the kids adjusted.
Yeah.
It's like, I am settled, I am prepped, and I am ready for whatever you're about to do. They came into that space of like, bring it on. I got you. Whatever we're going to do, I have you. And then also in the opposite of, I also had a different group of kids around same age that if I had like the spa music on, they didn't like it. They wanted to have music that they, at least this is just my observation. I could be completely wrong, but like if they had music that they were familiar with that made them feel safer, like the spa music, something that they didn't know, tears. Like they didn't have attitude issues or be crazy, but they were the ones that like wanted mom, or like they wanted to leave the room right away. That if I had Trolls on, or you know, Frozen, something that they recognized, they came into the room, and then if I gave them a task right away of like giving the dots and putting them out themselves, it like distracted them. So but again, seeing like I'm managing the situation, I'm being proactive about like, you guys are needing this, you guys are needing this, and I'm settled and ready for it, not let's figure this out together. It's like, but I'm not focusing on necessarily like, oh well, I don't want to get there earlier. Like, I don't want to have to do that or whatever. It's like, yeah, but in a way of I'm prepping myself, of I'm prepping the room, I'm prepping what I need. That is now making my class way easier on me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not dealing with crying babies or the like, I'm screaming, running around thing.
This is the whole, like, I don't know. To me, it seems like this is, we talk about this all the time. Like, it's like, a little bit more work, a little bit more effort, a little bit more preparation, a little bit more sacrifice always makes things, you know, twice, if not 10x as good. It's like, but we want it to just, we want to do as little as work as possible for it, and then it to be still like really good or perfect, to where it's like you don't get to places, or you don't grow upon what you're doing, you don't make things better by doing just as much as you've been doing for the last how many weeks, months, years type of thing. It's like a little bit more preparation. You come in 5 or 10 minutes earlier, and it's a mini sacrifice, makes the class so much better.
Mm-hmm.
That now, like, you come in 10 minutes earlier, it's like you gave up 10 minutes to make the next 45
way better of a
way
learning
better.
environment for them.
It's like, just mathematically, that seems better and right. But it's that, you know, that little hump you got to get over of like, I got to just put a little bit more effort. I got to have a little bit more preparation. You know, it's like with some of these fitness classes, I was just coming up with them on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started to do more of the programs and have it all written out, it's like, it's a little bit more work initially, but then it makes every single session so much easier because I go in knowing exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And then, like, if something comes up and we can't do something within it, it's like, oh, it's just an easy take it out, put something in, and then continue on, rather than like, well, shoot, now I got to come up with a whole other idea and a whole other thing. But it's just like a little bit more effort. It's just a little bit more sacrifice, and it's going to make all those things better.
Yeah.
And it's probably the same way of like, it's probably the same way of taking the kids to school, where it's like, let's get you there like 10 minutes early rather than 5 or like right as the bell's going to ring. Like, let's get there a little bit earlier so that we can get in the pickup line earlier or the drop-off line earlier or whatever. That's like just that little bit of time, little bit more sacrifice is going to make things it's going to probably make a world of difference. And it's like what you're saying. It could be like you're going to pick up your kid from school and they just don't like that they have to sit there for 15 minutes waiting for you.
Sure.
Towards like, if you just left 15 minutes earlier to go get them or something, and they didn't have to sit there for 15 minutes, and now the whole rest of the night is good or is better for them. It's like, it could be simple stuff like that, but it's not about, just like the health and fitness stuff. Like, it's not about doing all of the things all at once. It's like, pick one thing, get good at it, master it, and then move on to the next. That's like, you don't get good at something in 2 weeks.
Right.
You know, it's like, you got to do it for a month or maybe 2 months to make sure that you can keep that consistency. You know, if you're making breakfast for them 5 days a week for a month, 2 months, that's like 20, 40 times. It's like, you're going to start to get a real good routine of that. And then once that becomes so second nature, you can start add on another thing and then add another. And by the end of the year, like, you've got this awesome system going, and like, you can predict perfectly of how they're going to be when they get home and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like,
and I think if you go slowly, but your goal is to make it like more effective and be better versus just like finding the easy ways, I think then you will start to choose options that actually work, I guess. Like,
yeah,
it's like, like, so with the class thing, it's like, yeah, I could be doing it just that I don't have criers or, like, I don't have things, but like, I want this environment to be as learning friendly.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I want them to get the most out of this for like what their age group needs. So it's like, I want this to be set up so that it works. It's like, I'm giving them a good learning environment, so I'm able to host a good class, not just like babysit kids as best as I can, or so that they don't have an issue. It's like, like the food thing. It's like, I would want my kids to have good meals so that they're able to be better kids, so that they're able to go into their practices with better quality, better energy, like, and then they're able to then do their practice better, and then they're able to get better at that, and then whatever.
Yep. But
I think with doing that, you then find systems that are going to work for you and the family. It's like, I see your mom. It's like, I'm going to just make more dinner so that I can pack him lunch of something that is good quality, that I'm not just whipping up in the morning, and then I'm not even to stress about, well, now I got to make breakfast and a lunch. It's like, you're already making the dinner potentially. So then she figured out, I'm just going to make more.
Yeah.
Super simple. Like, but over the years, she was able to figure that out potentially, or maybe she did that right off the bat. But like, finding ways that you can settle into, trial and error it, like you said, do one thing at a time. But one thing that I do suggest to some of my younger parents is, you know, like starting before school starts, like what are some things that you can start implementing in your guys' structure that it will make it more seamlessly happen when the school year starts, of,
Yeah.
you know, finding ways that they can be responsible for certain things and setting up practices during the day that are going to kind of somewhat reflect how the school year is going to be. Like, I was like, can you start every time you go out or go to the park or go out, like they have a bag that they have to prep for themselves. Like they have to remember their snacks or their waters or whatever they need to go out, so that when it comes to going to dance or going to school and they're prepping their backpacks or their dance bag,
Yeah.
they've been doing that with their park bag or whatever, to then kind of practice and setting that up. So then when that time comes, it's like, oh, well, this just looks like that. You already know how to do that. So that's one thing that I don't have to deal with. So now I can focus on making your lunch because you can't do that yet. Or
Yeah. Well, it's like the familiarity you said of the class playing music that they already know. Just brings a little bit of that now when it's like you're going to school and it's this big scary thing you don't know, and it's like, oh, we pack our bag just like we usually do, and you have your backpack that you've been packing for the last 2 or 3 months or whatever, maybe even longer than that. There's some familiarity of like, oh, we're getting ready to go do something, I need to make sure I pack my things and then go. So yeah.
But I think that in order to make it, I don't know, less stressful, I think having the balance of what can I prep beforehand and what can I start setting up the system beforehand, and what is something that I need to kind of wait until we're in it to see even what it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, especially for newer parents that maybe they don't have, you know, the experience of what having 3 sports at a time looks like, and having all kids in the school, and, you know, different drop-off times, different pickup times. What does that look like during the week of just the family schedule? Allowing yourself flexibility and allowing yourself grace during that time of like, we're just here to figure it out. Like, I'm going to just make myself as available as I can so that I can handle all the weird stuff that might come up.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to focus on my kids and work. And like, that's what I need to do. Like, don't focus on you as much getting what you need.
Yeah. Yeah. That can come later.
And maybe that's something that you can even schedule out for yourself if you're worried about that getting back into the swing of things, if you easily fall off of your patterns. You know, like maybe I would suggest for myself, like I would plan that of like, okay, they start school in September, the beginning of October. It's like September is all about, let's figure out the family schedule. What do we need to do? What systems do we need to put in place? October is when I'm going to schedule, like my workout program is going to start in October and it's going to go till here. So I know like I didn't have to focus on myself right now because I already have it scheduled in. I penciled myself into my schedule, so I can just kind of let it be what it is right now. Then I'll clock back in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I would almost give more time, because I'm like, October, you might need to make adjustments with what you're doing.
Sure.
You know, or whatever. But everybody's going to kind of be on a different timeline with that anyways. Yeah. I think just the patience, you know, it's like we all want to do everything all at once.
Yeah.
And then it ends up kind of petering out because it's too much too fast. That it's like, if you can almost do it in reverse of, I'm going to go super slow and like start later than everybody and like go slower than everybody. And then I think eventually you start to see yourself, you know, continuing to go to the gym or continuing to be able to do the things for you that you need because you started slow and you started later and got a system down, and now you're going and doing all those things, and you're seeing other parents start to fall off a little bit more. You know, it's like the parent that used to be at the front of the line at the pickup is now slowly getting further and further back, kind of thing, because they're not leaving at the same time that they used to. And or people you see at the gym that are also parents, and all of a sudden they're not going anymore. And
or we see this with students, like they don't bring their kid every single week because like, well, thought we could do dance and soccer and piano and
Right.
all
Yep.
of these things. That's like, then
Yep.
you're only doing half of your stuff half of the time.
It seems like it's like I get kids are different, but it's like they're still just people. They're just not smart enough to know what's good for them yet. You know, it's like if you left a kid alone, like they're going to eat all the Oreos and drink the soda and all that kind of stuff. Or they're going to like, you know, I don't know. They're just like going to do whatever they want type of thing. They don't have the brain to, they don't have the maturity and literally the brain development to go like, that's probably not going to be good for me, so I shouldn't do that. Or this will be good for me, I should do that. That's like, you are in charge of that. I feel like as a parent, that's like you need to, it's like we have a hard time doing it for ourselves majority of the time, but it's like you generally know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And now it's like you have to do that with a kid and you have to put them in positions that's like, okay, I know this will be good for you, so I'm going to help you get into that position so that we can be successful here. And it's like, it's just doing the same thing with them. It's like if you're sending them off with, you know, a Pop-Tart and, you know, their bags packed or whatever, their backpacks packed, and you just are rushing them out the door to get on the bus. And then they get home from the bus and, you know, they're super hungry or whatever. They're just like antsy and crazy and whatnot. It's like, I think there's things that you're choosing to do that's not, it's not putting him in the best position to succeed. And it's like, you're not, they don't know any better. They're not going to go like, no, I'd like a nice egg and sausage breakfast, you know, like they're not going to be making great decisions. They're going to be like, okay, sweet, awesome. And then they're rushing out the door. And it's kind of like what you said with the classroom. It's like just the anxiousness the whole time that, you know, it's like you're in charge of their setting them up kind of thing. And I think you have to set them up first and then you can set yourself up. And I don't know, that seems to be a hard concept.
Well, I think it is kind of back and forth though. Like set yourself up so that you're able to have the ability to set them up. You know, it's
See,
like,
I think it's,
like
I think
for
it's the
example,
opposite.
like
I
your
don't
mom,
agree.
you're like, I'm not going to rush in the morning to get his breakfast and his lunch made. I'm going to set myself up by making a little bit extra tonight so that I'm not frazzled in the morning. Or like my mom would always get up earlier than us so that she could have like a calm, like helping us get ready, getting us whatever we need, like kind of getting us out the door, getting us into the car so she drives to school. But instead of her like, well, I'm going to be frazzled too and try to get ready with you guys as fast as I can. It's like, I'm going to set myself up by making the sacrifice of getting up earlier so that I'm able to show up for you guys better.
I don't know. My view of it and opinion of it is like, you most likely chose to have kids. Like they're number one now.
Sure.
It is your job and duty to make sure that they grow up to be mature, you know, good, healthy, successful people. I don't know. To me, it's like you're, it's not about you anymore. It's just not. That they come first and make sure they have what they need before you do. They just like, I don't, and I get that people can disagree with that. Like I get that it can be, they don't think that's how it should work. My opinion of it is that is how it should work because they are going to be the next people coming through society and we want them to be better than we were and be more successful and more helpful and just like continue to progress forward. That if you're so focused on you and your success and your setting yourself up and all that kind of stuff before them, I think you're doing the kids a disservice then because they're not old enough to figure out all this shit on their own.
And I'm not saying that I guess an example, if I could do like a real life example, would be for me as a mom, I want to be very much in shape and focus on my health, because I think if you can't expect that from your kids if you're not the living, walking example of that. That if my kids are in, activities after school, and then after school, like if our afternoons are booked, and say I'm working a regular job during the day, and the only time that I would be able to work out is before everybody gets up in the morning. That is something where I'm going to do that so that I am able to be a better version of myself by being in shape.
Yeah,
so
I
I'm
agree.
choosing to get up and work out for me before the day has started so that I'm able to do that.
Sure.
That's more what I'm saying, is like I'm setting the scene.
And I think the example, like, more so what I'm thinking about is like, you can't do that many activities because I need to work out.
Oh,
I think there's a lot of
no.
that attitude.
Okay, no, that's not what when I'm
I know
saying.
I know you're not saying that.
Okay.
It's like, I know what you think,
Okay.
but so I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm more so just trying to clarify my point of view on it. I'm not saying you're wrong or I disagree with you or whatever.
Got it. I thought you meant by what I was saying of like set yourself up first. You can set your kids up was what you were not agreeing with.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think there's.
We're back to square one.
Huh?
We're back to square one. Let me give another analogy. I think we're on the same page as far as it's not a me or you. It's in order to not send you off to school with a Pop-Tart in your bag, I have to figure out what do I need to do to set myself up so that I'm able to make you a breakfast, make something that, you feel comfortable giving your kids and leaving the house with.
Well, and I think like the kind of the structure of like how you're putting your examples is like, you're making sure the kids, like, you are making sure the kids are set up first, and then you're finding an area within that where you can get what you need. You're not going like, well, I need to get what I need, and I like working out at 3 p.m. So I'm going to work out at 3 p.m. So it means that, like, you guys are going to have to take the bus home.
Right.
It's like, no, this is all of what the kids need. Now, where is there a space where I can work out, or I can, go get groceries, or go do this or go do that?
Okay, so maybe I should
that is, you're setting the kids up first, and then you're setting yourself up of what you need.
So maybe I should restructure how I'm saying that. It's what do you want to have for your kids, and then what systems do you need to put in place so that happens? What do you want your family structure to look like as this new school year stuff is starting? And then what do you need to do as the adult, as the parent, to set that up so that happens? Like, you want healthy meals. You want them to be able to eat. Well, okay, well, we pick them up from school and take them right to their practices. Okay, well, now I got a meal prep then.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, I guess, yeah. So, yeah. I should rephrase it.
Yeah, because I think, like, kind of like what you said, this is where it gets twisted. Is people are like, oh, I need to set myself up first so that I can be a better parent to then, set them up or do what they need. And I think that's where it gets twisted or things get weird, is like, now they start to do things of like, I don't know, just like, the quicker I can get you out the door, I have my own time now.
Sure.
So like, let's just, speed this up and get you out the door. We can wake up as late as possible. And then, it's like, well, my day doesn't technically need to start until they leave, because then I can actually do something. It's like, well, no, like there's things that you should do to set them up so that they have a good day of whatever it is, a healthy breakfast, and like they're clean, and you have they're prepared. They have all their things ready to go and all that kind of stuff. Maybe they're going to a practice afterwards, make sure they have their practice equipment, and then you can send them off, rather than like, let's all wake up 10 minutes before we got to go, and then we'll just shuffle you out the door quick, and then I can now work out and do my things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's just a lot of that kind of, the quicker I can just get you out of here, I can get to my things now and set myself up so that I'm better. To where it's like, yeah, and it's just, this is just my viewpoint of it, of like, you're not number one anymore. It's like, they're number one.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that they've got everything that they need. And if you don't get to your shit, like, tough luck.
Sure.
You're not the priority anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
That's just the way that I view it. I don't think that's I don't think people would agree. I think they want to live a fun, healthy, successful life as well. And to me, I think you can still do that by doing that, because it's like all the things that I want for the kids, I also want for myself. It's like, again, they're just people.
Right.
It's like, I want them to be healthy. They probably want to be healthy. They want to have a clear mind and be successful in school and what they're doing, or sports or whatever. That's like, the more that I'm setting them up to do those things, it's kind of also benefiting me too. Because just like you said, well, if I'm making them a healthy breakfast, I'll just make more for me then too.
Sure.
And then if I'm having them be active when they get home from school, well, why don't I just be active as well? And now I'm kind of getting a workout in.
I think that's where the negative of, again, it's like where the message is getting twisted is where I think we see a lot of nowadays, and you don't see this because you're not on social media, but like a lot of parent conversation on social media that I am seeing, just me personally, is a lot of like, poor me, and like why it's hard, and why this, like, I'm not getting what I need, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's because of that they are not it would be, I'm gonna make my kids the healthiest breakfast, but then I'm gonna just give myself a Pop-Tart. Or I'm gonna, set them up so that they have something, active to do after, but I'm just gonna sit and watch them. Or like, I need to take this. Like, it's like you're setting your kids up for the better life, but then you're skimping out on you so that you can give them that. Yeah. Versus like being like I said, like I can't expect my kids to eat healthy or live a healthy lifestyle or be, fit conscious. That's so disgusting. But like aware of their health. I hate that I said that, but I can't think of another way to say it. Like, like prioritize that if I'm not doing that. It's like if I just hate it.
You're so Madison. You're so woke. It's unbelievable.
I don't know why, like, that just sounds so lame, but it's like, I do. It's like, if I'm eating like crap, or if I'm overweight, or if I'm like I'm just sitting down all the time, and I'm now telling my kids, like, yeah, I want you to, not just sit down and play video games, or not just sit down and watch TV all the time, but then I'm doing that. Like, yeah, it's like, I need to be the thing first and be the example and to be the guide, so that even if I don't say anything, they're seeing what I want them to do.
Well, that's kind of
not, you get a healthy breakfast, I'm going to make that for you, and then, but I'm going to grab a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
That's helping no one. That's where I say, like, you're not setting yourself up to be a better parent because you're choosing the not as great option for yourself. So now you're becoming more unhealthy. Right. You're not getting the good sleep. You're not getting the good food. You're not getting the activity. Now your machine is breaking down. And that's where I think it turns into like, well, my kids get everything. Or like you start resenting your kids because it's like, well, yeah, you're getting the shit end of the stick every single time, but you're the one giving yourself it.
Well, and that's what, like, the lead by example thing is, I don't know. To me, it's like it's the most important attribute. It's like people learn so much more, and they're so much more observant I think then just we give them credit for type of thing. So it's like the person that's lecturing and telling you what to do and all these things versus the person that's just doing all of them. People tend to look at the person that's doing them and try to emulate that rather than like, oh, this person's saying these things, I'll just do it. It's like I had the perfect like I don't know, example of that or whatever, where it's like my dad is telling me to do all these things and be this way, but he's not doing any of it. And then my mom barely says anything and then just is doing all of it, is doing everything. It was like the perfect, this person's doing everything and keeping their mouth shut. This person's not really doing anything and is continuing to talk. And it's like I just was way more watching what my mom was doing and trying to emulate what she's doing and trying to be more like her, because it's like, oh, she's really hardworking and she just like keeps grinding and keeps going. That if you're sitting there going like, you need to eat healthy food, you need to eat healthy food, and then they're watching you eat Pop-Tarts and crap. Yeah. It's like, I don't think they're going to listen to your words. Like they're going to grow up and then start probably eating poor because they didn't see you doing it. They just heard you lecturing them about it all the time. And it's the same with
and now it's a rule versus a lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like,
but I think doesn't a Pop-Tart sound so good right now?
I think it travels into kind of everything, because it's like, you know, you tell, don't watch TV, don't be on your tablet, but then you're watching TV and on your phone 24/7, or
sure, any smaller
any moment,
tablet.
Yeah, any moment they see you, you know, you're on your phone doing something, or like you're like, you guys need to read more and do this and do that, and it's like you're not doing any of those things. You're just sitting there at night watching TV, watching your new Netflix show with a glass of wine and whatever. And it's this activity and hell, it's like every single category that if you're not leading by example, they're watching that. People are watching that and learning from that so much more than your words. It's like, I bet there would be better parenting by somebody who literally didn't say a thing to their kids ever for 18 years. Like
top-notch
but just
human.
did everything and led by example, versus the parent that does nothing and talks and tells them what to do all the time. It's like we see and then emulate. We don't do. I feel like we don't do well with hearing and then like, okay, they told me to do that. I'm gonna do that, because you lose trust so quickly.
And that's where I think it's not necessarily about. Again, I'm just going off of my experience with kids and my experience through years of teaching at different ages, that I think it's less about telling them directly something, but more, again, like kids are so, which maybe adults are too, but like kids are just trying to, they're sponges. They're just trying to absorb any information that they can, that they're just more observant of your words versus, I guess an example, again, that 2 to 3 year old class. I was having kind of an issue with the sharing thing. And so I was like, okay, every time I deal with this situation, I'm going to say it in the way that I would like them to handle it. I'm not going to tell them like, you got to share, you got to be nicer to them, or you got to like give them the dot because that was their dot. I'm just going to handle the situation, but I'm going to handle it in the same way every time. And, you know, by offering them help versus telling them like, you got to do this. I was like, it was always the dots. Like they always wanted the same purple dot. Everybody always wants the purple one. And so like they were trying to rip it out of each other's hands. And I asked one of the girls, like, can I help you share this with her? Because this was her dot. And I would say it in the same way every single time, saying this like, you know, whatever, same phrase. And I started noticing that when they would see them not sharing, the third kid would go up to them and say the exact same sentences that I would in the same order, doing it the same way. Mm-hmm. And then it would start to be when they would just be in that debacle together, they would then just like say the same thing that I would say, and say like, even like, no ma'am, you can't have that. Like say it in the same way that it's like, oh, I'm not directly yelling at you or directly saying this is what you need to do. I am just talking in the way that I would like you to talk. And now you're just picking up on that because you're trying to reflect the adults around you. It's the same way when kids swear.
Yeah.
It's like they're just hearing you say words and they're going, oh, let me try that.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
just being the person that you want your kids to be, speaking how you want them to speak and handling those things. They're probably just going to start to emulate you
Yeah.
and how you're doing that. But if you're not doing that, you can't necessarily be super mad at them if they're not being that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's like they're watching and listening and hearing everything.
Yeah.
That freaked me out when Carly and the girls were here. And it's like Alani just wasn't being that great. And then it seemed like Hayden wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
And then Carly talked to her later about it. And it was like she was reciting everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you're a spy. You are listening and noticing everything that we're doing. But you're acting like you're not.
Yes.
It's like, that freaked me out. I was like, I'm like,
I love when that happens.
you're so young that, like, it's like just realizing how young it starts of like,
oh my gosh.
oh,
Yeah.
you're seeing and hearing everything, every freaking thing. It's just like imprinting too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like you're a spy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, to me, that makes it easier, which I can see why for some people that would not seem easy. But it's like, oh, if I just keep trying to better myself,
Yeah.
hopefully my kid should follow suit.
Well, and I think the truth of it all is like you're kind of doing all these things. You're doing them at the same time of like setting the kids up and setting yourself up. So it's like you're not, because we're always trying to get better too as people, as adults and whatever, that, you know, you want to be the example and set the example for your kids. That's like you're practicing it along with trying to teach them how to be it too. That it just gives more, I think, of an incentive to be better and do more. It's like when you're telling your kids to eat healthy, but then you're not, it's like, okay, well, I need to make sure I'm on my stuff then. So then that's your motivation. That's your reason for now I'm going to be better at this. And now you can both be doing it together and learning together and trying to be better with it. And then it just goes across to every category.
Because I think kids, just like adults, they see through the bullshit so fast.
That's what I was saying. Like you lose trust so quickly.
Yeah.
And that's why I mean, like, people telling you stuff just becomes less and less real and important and whatever, because you start to figure out like, well, they said this to me then, and then they were doing this or something else and whatever, and they just start to get smarter and connect dots, and you just start to lose trust that it's like when they see somebody being an example of it, rather than just lecturing me and telling me, they go, oh, well, this person's just doing it, and like I should just follow that then.
Yep.
Because they're actually doing it, or I'm going to be more intrigued by them and maybe ask them more questions because they're the example, rather than this person that's not doing anything, but they're telling me everything.
Right. Yeah. I feel like you see that with kids, like they can compare other kids of like, well, why didn't they have to do that?
Right.
Or like, why did they do that? Or why did she get to go first? Or siblings, like why did they get to play with that, but I didn't get to play with that? It's like they can start to see where it always reflects on them and where like the differences of I do this, but you don't. So it's like they're going to do the same thing with us.
Yeah.
Of like, that's interesting that you ate that, but I'm eating this.
Yeah.
Why are you getting the fun breakfast?
When you're sneaking the Oreos so that they don't see, and then they catch you and they're like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
Then they start sneaking them and you're like, what are you doing? Like, well, you were doing it.
Right. Yeah.
I thought this is how we get them and get away with it.
Yeah. I do. I think we got to give kids so much more credit.
Oh my God.
They're so much smarter than we think. They can understand things so much earlier than we think.
Well, it's like you said, they're sponges. They just are so observant and soak everything up that it's like, I don't know. It's just like you have to be. It's a funny kind of back and forth, you know, as you're growing up, as you're a kid, like you're trying to tiptoe around your parents a little bit of like, make sure I'm doing the right thing and make sure I'm not being like a bad kid or doing things wrong or whatever. And then you're the parent and it's like the same shit. It's like you're just now tiptoeing around the kid. Like, I hope they don't catch me do this bad thing, or I hope they don't see me doing this other bad thing. And It's funny. It's like nothing changes. It's all just people.
Yeah. But I think that's what the nice part about this time of year, as much as it could be stressful, and I think we all experience that, you know, like we remember that as kids, like this time of year can be a lot because you're adding all of your things back together and you're trying to figure out the new schedule and the new agenda and how do I want to be this year, and that it's kind of a fresh start every time. Like you could see it as a positive of, okay, last year we were not great as a family with our activity. We were not great as a family with how we ate, or like we were skipping practices too much, or we weren't full in on whatever activities that we were doing. That it's a fresh start of, okay, how can we be better this year? How can we go at this with a little bit more of a calculated approach, and what will work and what won't work?
Well, and I like the idea of like trying to blend as much of it together as possible so there's not these big abrupt changes. You know, it's like you said, like having them have their own bag so that when they go to school, it's an easy transition with that. Or it's like you're not just like letting them do whatever or eat whatever and sit on their butt all summer, and then school starts and you're like, okay, we're going to start eating healthy and being active.
Right.
It's like, no, we've been doing this all year.
That's so many changes. That's overwhelming.
It's like they're going back to school and having to get into that mode again, that it's like to have everything else be kind of consistent and the same.
Yeah.
Outside of that is probably going to have them be less emotional and crazy and all that sort of thing. Just like adults are. You know, it's like, it's no different. It's like when everything gets thrown up in the air and you're trying to juggle 5 things, it's like, that's hard for you. So now a 5-year-old, you're going to expect a 5-year-old to do that. And then like, why are you crying? Nothing's wrong. It's like, they're trying to.
My whole world is upside down. What are you talking about?
Nothing is the same as it was yesterday. So I don't know what you want me to do, Mom.
I know. I think we talk about that a lot, of just like let your kids in on the loop, because it is just like a lot of they're just rolling with whatever you want all the time. And they might not understand why or what is happening half the time, that you think it's like a fun new change.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like you're just, I feel like parents are always just trying to like surprise their kids with like, now we're going to do this and now we're going to do this.
Yeah.
It's like, well, cool. Now I had no time to like emotionally check myself of how I'm going to feel about that or what I need to do with that. Or it's just like, now we're doing this and now you're going to have a snack and now you're going to have lunch and now we're going to do nap time.
Yeah.
Kids are just constantly like,
yeah.
now what? Now what?
Yeah. I know. Could you imagine if I was just like, I just told you what we're going to do every day?
And like in the moment that it's happening.
It's like, guess what? We're going to go on a vacation tomorrow. It's like, what? I was planning on playing with Barbies tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now I got to go somewhere I don't even know or know anything about.
Yeah. That's why I don't like I don't like surprises. But yeah, we talked about that. I don't know if we already told the story on this, but like, I think we did. Like going to the beach and like going on our walks. It's like, I wonder if kids would like this, you know, like going on the morning walk and doing that. It's like, well, we would just set up that structure so that we're going on morning walks every day, so that seems familiar to them. But, you know, you think of most kids to be like, well, I'm hungry. And then they just start like continuing to say that they're hungry. And it's like, gosh, why do kids do that? Like that it can get so frustrating, I think, for parents, because they're just like, we get it. Like, we get that you're hungry.
Yeah.
But then you put yourself in the kid's shoes. It's like they're just constantly trying to take care of themselves. We could see it in that way of like, they just keep reminding you that they're hungry because they think that you're probably forgetting or that you don't care.
Yeah.
You say that we're on a walk, but till when? It's like,
Right.
I don't know when this is going to stop.
Yeah.
Are we like immediately leaving
Then
and then are we going to go?
looking at the beach and they're like, that's really far.
Yeah. It's like, are we eating right afterwards? Do you know what I'm going to eat? Like but you just keep, what's the response that a typical parent would give? Is like, well, later we'll eat.
Yeah.
When we're done, we'll eat. It's like, when is that?
When is that? Is that tomorrow?
Right.
Are we going to walk this whole thing?
Like they're just constantly trying to stay on top of their own shit. It's like, yeah, just let them in on what's happening.
Yeah. That's like, you just let it, hey, you see that house? We're going to go to that one and then walk back. And then we're going to go to the car and go home and then eat.
Yep.
It's like, and then they probably will go, okay, we just gotta get to get to the house, and then it's like you said, let them in on the loop, because now that they know,
Yeah.
it's like, they're just people.
Right.
It's like, could you imagine doing that?
I know.
It's like, I'm like, come here, come with me, and you're like, okay, I'm kind of hungry. It's like, all right, that's cool. We're just gonna walk.
We'll eat later.
Yeah, we'll eat later.
What's later?
We just keep walking, and you're like, okay, but like, how far are we going? Like, when are we gonna?
And you're like, stop talking about how you're hungry.
Would you
We
stop
know.
saying, we know you're hungry. It's like, well, I don't know how far we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they're just at your whim.
Yeah. That's another thing I started doing in my classes that I think I really liked. And I don't know if it helped, you know, directly or right away, but I would let them know like what the next thing that we're going to be doing after that. Like, we're going to do question of the day in
Yeah.
a circle, and then we're going to go to the waiting mat right after that. It's like, and they just say it, just like letting them know, like, heads up, this is going to come next.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't know. It makes sense to me. Like, it logically makes sense, because they never know. They're always being told what is going on or what to do or what's going to be next. That's like, when you just don't know whatever is coming the whole day, it's probably very comforting or relaxing to know, like,
That would make me so anxious.
we're going to do this next, and then after that we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And it's just like why they like structure.
Mm-hmm.
Just like why people do. Again, it's like, we're all just people. Kids are just
Because you know how to
people.
wrap your head and your emotions around that then.
Yeah, and you can kind of have a plan or prepare. Or
Yeah.
It's like, it just eases you when it's like, I know what my kind of day is going to look like and the structure of it. Or if somebody's just like, okay, now do this. We're doing this now.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean I got to clean up?
Yeah.
Like, I was just in the zone.
Yeah.
Towards like, if they would have known, hey, in 10 minutes, we're going to clean up
Right.
and then have lunch. It's like, just like simple little things like that. And they're like, oh, okay. And now I can play for 10 more minutes. And then
Right.
you know, rather than like, stop everything doing. You're just shaking their brain, basically.
Well, especially with kids, like, their play is their work. So if I think of like, oh, I'm gonna dive into emails now, and you're like, okay, let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I was just prepping myself to dive into these emails.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me that I got to stop to do something else that I kind of probably don't want to do.
Yep.
It's like, no.
Yep. That's so funny. Like, watching the daycare kids get done with lunch and just like run back over to the toys.
Yeah.
Like, they go back to what they were doing. Like, okay, I got to finish
Yeah.
this. It's like, I was working over here. I had to
Yeah.
take lunch, and then now I'm back. It's like, they go right back to the same things they were doing
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah. I think I'm done talking about that.
All right, dog. Great job. See you later.
Bye.